I ignored that voice. Instead, I started making plans. Maybe I'd move into a nicer apartment. Maybe I'd upgrade my car. Maybe I'd finally replace my old phone. Maybe next year I'd quit my regular job completely. For the first time, my future looked exciting. The hustle wasn't just paying bills anymore. It was selling me a dream. A dream where I answered to nobody. A dream where effort always created income. A dream where freedom belonged to anyone willing to outwork everyone else. It was a beautiful dream. And that's exactly why it was so convincing. Then, the first crack appeared. It was so small. I almost missed it. A Friday night. Usually one of the busiest times of the week. I parked near my favorite restaurant. Opened the app. Waited. 5 minutes. Nothing. 10 minutes. Nothing. 15 minutes. Still nothing. Finally, an order appeared. I smiled. Until I saw the payout. It was terrible. Normally, I would have declined it. Instead, I hesitated, then accepted it anyway. It's just one bad order, I told myself. Tomorrow will be normal. Tomorrow wasn't normal. There were fewer orders, longer waits, more drivers sitting in parking lots. I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. Everywhere I looked, someone else had an insulated delivery bag. At traffic lights, gas stations, fast food restaurants, even grocery stores. The city hadn't changed. The competition had. The apps were still hiring. Every week, more drivers joined. The same number of customers, shared between more workers. I should have realized what that meant. Instead, I convinced myself it was temporary. Then another change. The bonus that usually appeared every weekend was gone. No explanation. No email. No warning. Just gone. I refreshed the app. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing. Maybe it was a glitch. It wasn't. A week later, another incentive disappeared. Then another. Little by little, the numbers I had become used to started shrinking. Not enough to panic. Just enough to notice. I worked an extra hour. Then another. By the end of the week, I'd worked nearly 10 extra hours. Yet somehow, I earned almost exactly what I made the week before. That didn't make sense. I drove farther, worked longer, skipped more breaks, but the money stayed the same. It was like running on a treadmill. No matter how hard I pushed, I wasn't getting anywhere. Still, I wasn't worried, because I had an explanation for everything. It's the weather. School's back. People are traveling. Business is just slow. Next month will be better. Hope is comforting. Reality doesn't care. Then one afternoon, I stopped to buy gas. I looked at the pump. The total kept climbing. $50. $60. $70. I stared at the screen. A strange thought crossed my mind. When was the last time I actually calculated how much this job costs me? I couldn't remember. I knew exactly how much I earned, but I had no idea how much I spent. Fuel, oil changes, tires, insurance, maintenance, taxes. None of it felt real, because none of it arrived all at once. It arrived one receipt at a time, one repair at a time, one tank of gas at a time. Just like the money problems I'd been trying to escape. Small enough to ignore, big enough to matter. That night, I opened the app one last time before going to sleep. The map looked different. Gray, quiet, almost empty. For the first time since I started. I wasn't excited. I was nervous. I couldn't explain why. Nothing terrible had happened yet. No eviction notice. No missed rent. No debt collectors. Just a feeling. The feeling that something underneath all this had started to shift. I closed my phone, told myself I was overthinking, and went to bed. I had no idea that the hardest part of the story hadn't even begun. I should have listened to that feeling, but I didn't. The next morning, I woke up, grabbed my phone, and went online like I always did. Nothing. I refreshed the app. Still nothing. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, an order appeared. It paid less than half of what a similar trip would have paid just a few months earlier. I stared at the screen. Normally, I would have declined it without thinking. Instead, I accepted it immediately. Because suddenly, I couldn't afford to be picky. That was the moment I realized something had changed. Not in the app. In me. A few months ago, I worked because I wanted extra money. Now, I was working because I needed every single dollar. The hustle had quietly become my paycheck. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Just survive this week. Next month will be better. People are probably just spending less. Every excuse bought me another day of denial. But denial has an expiration date. Mine arrived with a strange noise coming from my car. It started as a soft clicking sound. I turned the radio up. The next day, it got louder. A week later, the check engine light came on. I remember pulling into a mechanic's shop with a pit in my stomach. He drove the car around the block. Came back. Looked at me. This needs to be fixed soon. I asked the question everyone dreads. How much? He told me. I honestly thought he was joking. It was more money than I had left in my savings. I stood there doing math in my head. If I paid for the repair, I'd barely have enough for rent. If I didn't fix it, I couldn't work. I was trapped. In the end, I reached for my credit card. The same card I'd been so proud of paying off. As the machine processed the payment, I didn't feel relieved. I felt defeated. Because I knew exactly what I'd done. I'd borrowed tomorrow's money, just to keep earning today's. After that, everything became heavier. Every delivery wasn't just paying bills anymore. It was paying for the repair, the gas, the insurance, the credit card, the rent. Every dollar already had somewhere to go before I earned it. I started driving longer hours. 14-hour days became normal. Coffee replaced breakfast. Fast food replaced dinner. Some nights, I was too tired to even eat. I'd get home, throw my keys on the table, and fall asleep fully dressed. Then wake up and do it all again. I kept telling myself, this is what success looks like. But deep down, I knew I wasn't building a future anymore. I was trying to outrun one. Then the algorithm changed. At least, that's what every driver believed. Nobody knew exactly what happened. Nobody could explain it. But everyone felt it. The busy hours weren't busy anymore. The bonuses disappeared. Orders became unpredictable. One driver said it was because too many new people had signed up. Another blamed the economy. Someone else blamed the app itself. The truth didn't matter. The result was the same. Less work. Less money. More waiting. I found myself sitting in parking lots for nearly an hour, watching other drivers do exactly what I was doing. Phones in their hands. Hope on their faces. Waiting for an order that never came. It hit me then. The app didn't need us. If one driver quit, another 100 were ready to take the spot. We thought we were our own bosses. But every decision that affected our income was being made by something we couldn't even see. One Friday, I worked almost 13 hours. When I finally checked my earnings, I just sat there. I had made less than I used to make in 6 hours. I looked at the fuel gauge, then at the mileage. then back at my phone. For the first time, I asked myself a question I'd been avoiding. What if I'm not actually making money anymore? That night, I grabbed a notebook. Not to plan my week, to calculate the truth. I wrote down everything. Fuel, insurance, maintenance, oil changes, car depreciation, phone bill, taxes I'd ignored. Then I subtracted it all. The answer made my stomach turn. Some days, I was earning less than minimum wage. I'd been working harder than ever, while convincing myself I was getting ahead. Then came rent week. I knew I was short. Not by much. Just enough to make me nervous. So I pushed harder. I accepted every order. Even the terrible ones. Long drives. Tiny payouts. No tips. I kept saying yes because saying no felt impossible. The landlord called. I let it ring. He called again the next day. Then again. I knew what he wanted. Time. Money. An answer. I had none. 3 days later, I came home exhausted. I wasn't thinking about rent. I wasn't thinking about work. I was thinking about sleep. Then I saw it. A white sheet of paper taped to my apartment door. The same one you saw at the beginning of this story. Pay or vacate. I stood there for what felt like forever. Not crying. Not angry. Just empty. Because in that moment, I finally admitted something to myself. I hadn't almost lost my apartment because I didn't work hard enough. I'd almost lost it because I'd built my life around income that could disappear without warning. That realization hurt. But it also changed everything. The next morning, I made the hardest decision of the entire year. I stopped chasing the app. Instead of opening it first, I called my manager. I asked if there were any extra shifts available. There were. I took everyone I could. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting. Nobody online would have made a motivational video about it. But it was steady. I also called my landlord. It was an embarrassing conversation. I explained the situation honestly. We worked out a payment plan. Not because I deserved special treatment. Because I finally stopped avoiding the problem. Then I sold a few things I didn't truly need. An old gaming console. Some electronics collecting dust. A bicycle I hadn't touched in months. None of it solved everything overnight. But together, they bought me something I desperately needed. Time. Over the next few months, I kept doing gig work. But differently. It became exactly what it should have been from the start. A side hustle. Not my entire financial foundation. If the app had a slow day, I wasn't panicking anymore. If bonuses disappeared, my rent was still covered. The difference wasn't how much money I made. The difference was what I depended on. Looking back, I don't regret trying the gig economy. It taught me valuable lessons. It helped me earn extra income when I needed it. But it also taught me something that no viral video ever mentioned. Flexibility isn't the same as security. A great week doesn't guarantee a great month. An unstable income should never be treated like a guaranteed paycheck. The biggest mistake I made wasn't downloading the app. It was believing tomorrow's earnings already belonged to me. Today, before I take on any new opportunity, I ask myself one simple question. If this income disappeared tomorrow, would my life fall apart? If the answer is yes, I know I'm taking on more risk than I can afford. Because real financial freedom isn't about chasing every dollar. It's about building a life where one bad week doesn't become one bad year. That eviction notice never forced me out of my apartment. But it did force me to grow up financially. And looking back, I'm grateful it did. Because sometimes, the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn is the one that teaches you what stable income is really worth.